Hello my lovely friends and welcome to my journal ecosystem mid-year review. At the very end of last year I shared my journal ecosystem, going through all the books I used in 2025 and my plans for this year. So I thought it would be fun to have a bit of a mid-year review or check-in to see how my journal ecosystem has changed up, what's worked, what hasn't, and so on. As well as sharing a few tips as to how to stay consistent with journaling and how to create your own journal ecosystems, as it's not too late to get into journaling. For anyone not familiar with this idea of a journal ecosystem, it is basically just the journals you use. It really is that simple. A lot of us journalers use multiple journals for different purposes, so building an ecosystem is a system of journals that works for the purposes you need it for. You might just need one journal or planner, and so that one book would be your whole ecosystem. Do let me know in the comments what your journal's ecosystem is, or if you don't journal but love watching journaling content, then be sure to comment which of the books I'm going to share is your favourite. We're going to go in the same order as I did for my last journal ecosystem video, and so we are starting off with my reading journal. I have been keeping a reading journal for 4 going on 5 years, and this is my 4th journal. I am a big bookworm. I read a lot and I love writing about what I read. I'm also quite a crafty person, so I do love to have these decorative mood board spreads which I make for books that I love. This year was my first time testing out a traveller's size notebook for my reading journal, and whilst I have enjoyed using it for this journal and testing out the size, I do feel like whenever I start my next reading journal, I will probably go back to A5. For most things, the traveller's size is great, especially when I don't have a lot to say about a book. But for when I do have a lot to say, or I want to decorate my spread, I do find the smaller space a bit restrictive. That said, I will keep up with this notebook until I reach its end, and as it is a very pretty notebook and I do want to finish it. Also, I will say that reading journals do not need to be as complex and decorative as my one is. You don't need to have decoration or faff. A simple list or scribbled notes are equally as valid and important. A reading journal is just a place to keep track of the books you have read. Now, with my reading journal, I do have this little notebook. This is a new addition to my ecosystem, and it is simply a list of books. I am really trying to focus on my physical TBR and keeping track of the series that I'm reading this year, so I decided I wanted a physical place where I can note these books down and tick them off. It's nothing fancy, but I do find it very helpful. I used to use Notion for this, but honestly I've kind of been going off Notion a bit recently, and I have been wanting to have a physical pen and paper, no AI options, simple way of keeping track of things. This notebook is super handy and a good use of a little notebook, of which I have many, so many. I am often given little notebooks as gifts, so I thought it would be a good way of using it. And in the future I intend to add in a list of the books I buy each year so I can keep track and make sure that I read the books that I buy. As a new book has been added, we next come to a book that has fallen to the wayside, and this is my 5-year diary. I used to keep 5-year diaries a lot. It was my original form of journaling, but then since I've gotten into daily long form journaling, this diary has just fallen away. I don't reach for it, and I really need to get to, backdate it. I don't really feel bad about this, as I can backdate it if I want to with my daily journal, or in the future, if I stop daily journaling, I can go back to this format of journaling, as it is one I would recommend for anyone wanting to start journaling in a low pressure, a line a day format. Moving on, we have 2 books that have been with me for 3 years now, and whilst they're technically not journals, they are so important to me that I wanted to include them as part of my ecosystem, and these are my writing notebooks. For anyone new here, hello, I am Katie Kay. I am a debut fantasy author. My fairy retelling high fantasy novel Red Witch is coming out September 2026. Pre-orders are now live for both ebooks and hardback, so if you like fairy tale retellings and magic, do check out the links in the description. Shameless plugs aside, I use these 2 books religiously. When I have ideas I need to mind map, lists of things I need to get done, research I need to remember, it all goes into one of these. The notebook is the one I use the most. The Filofax, as I said kind of in my last ecosystem, is a bit that kind of is a work in progress. It's mostly where I keep print-offs of any pages I make on Notion, as I am truly a physical, paper is best girly. I just don't trust technology to hold my writing notes alone. There is actually a lot more I want to do with this book, and maybe I'll make a point of setting some time aside into making it a bit more put together. Now to the main event, my daily journal. This is a Moleskine daily journal from their kind of Peanuts collaboration. I've never really read or watched Peanuts, but I do love Snoopy, and I found this cover highly entertaining. I'm so excited as now, making this video, I have officially been daily journaling for over a year. I started daily journaling last year, right at the end of May 2025. And have never missed a page. I never thought I'd be able to keep a daily journal like this, long form even. I used to forget to do my 5-year, 1 line a day diary, and that literally is just a few lines. But I think because that was partially because I hadn't worked out how to fit it into my day. This is kind of a tip for staying consistent with journaling that worked for me, is to fit journaling into your day rather than kind of making time for it. By that I mean I looked at my usual habits and how I go about my day and found a quiet moment that already existed. For me, this is when I finish my work and have my kind of nighttime cup of tea and put on some YouTube or whatever I'm watching. In that time when I'm having my cup of tea, I take out my journal and write. I wasn't trying to add a new break into my day to journal, rather I used one that I already had. And this really worked. I also keep my journal by my chair so I can literally see it as I sit down to have that break. And I think this helps too. It's right there, there's like nothing stopping me from picking it up and scribbling something down. And if I do feel really like kind of bad or ill or I'm busy so miss a day, I can catch up the very next day. I never let it become something that I put off. It's like kind of a rule for myself that, okay, you cannot write in it for a day, but the next day you have to catch up. I've only had to do this like twice when I was really quite ill, but keeping this rule in mind, I think it helps with that consistency, even if you have to miss a day. I've also become a lot freer with this journal. I add in junk and things that I collect, like leaflets and tickets and photos, even stickers and food wrappers. I really just allowed my journal to become a place where I can have fun in. And on occasion that I pick up something that doesn't fit in my journal, I have a good old-fashioned scrapbook that I use alongside this. This is purely for saving bits that I want to save, like cards or packaging that just doesn't fit in my journal. For example, recently I went to a Doctor Who convention and I got signed photos from some of the actors, and so I have these saved in here as they don't fit in my journal. It's just extra handy to have. 2 more journals left, and we start with the more boring, if you like, of the 2. I have this 18-month weekly Moleskine diary journal. This one isn't really a journal. I think if we classify journals as more like memory keeping and creative, this is probably instead a planner. I use this pretty much mostly for work. This is how I keep on top of weekly tasks and my schedule basically. I used to use notebooks and sticky notes for this, but I needed something more structured for Red Witch stuff. My novel is the main reason I went for an 18-month planner, as it began in September 2025 and it goes to December 2026. And Red Witch was officially announced the 30th of September 2025, a year ahead of release. So with this planner I could work out the release schedule, also all the social media marketing I have to do, note down what I need to get edits back from editors, publishers, that kind of stuff. It also does help me keep scheduling with my YouTube stuff, but I did mostly get it for Red Witch and I literally picked the colour to match. I actually really like having this planner, and I feel like regardless of whether I'm having a novel published, it is handy to have this kind of planning system. It lives open on my desk, so it's just there so I can clearly see what I have on. So I do see myself getting another one of these in the future. We're ending on a fun one, and this is my media log. It's basically where I keep track of movies and shows that I have watched, as well as sometimes a bit of a music wrap-up. I've had this notebook for a long time, and I'm not sure what brand it is. I got this to be a bullet journal many years ago, but never really got into that system. But I didn't want this notebook that I decorated to go to waste, so I made it into a media log. As the years have gone on, I found myself getting more and more into using this media log. At first, I wasn't really sure what I wanted it to be or how I wanted to go about keeping track of the TV shows and films. I did some in-depth writing, but not a lot. But then with each year, I added more of that kind of in-depth, if you like, writing. And now we get to this year, and I reach for this journal often like the moment I finish watching something and I want to talk about it. For example, when I went to see Project Hail Mary, the moment I came home, all I wanted to do is write about that film. I really love how this journal just has grown and come together. That is my entire journal ecosystem. Though I will be honest with you, I have been debating adding one more book to this. I know, I have too many as it is. However, I would really love a gaming journal. I have debated whether to add gaming into my media log, but I don't know, I kind of like the idea of it having its own journal. Kind of a bit more on the lines of the little notebook I have for my reading journal. I'm kind of thinking of using one of my many mini notebooks and turning one into like a gaming journal of some kind. Do let me know in the comments if you think this sounds like a good idea and if you'd like to see me put one together. Before I end this video, I do want to stress that I am a journal lover. This is my hobby and something I find a lot of comfort and fun in, but it doesn't mean you should be doing it too. You don't need all these journals, okay? I've seen some really cool journals and planners that other people have created that are just a single journal that covers like all the things I've mentioned. Just use one if that suits you, or use none if they don't work. When it comes to creating your own ecosystem, think about what you want to use your journal for. Is it for memory keeping or planning? Is it for a particular interest or daily life? Start simple if you don't have to create a collection of journals from the off. And journaling doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be done daily. You can get undated journals, nor does it have to be a full page. The 5-year diaries might be the best fit for you, or a weekly planner which you could also use for both schedule and memory keeping. Or never forget just a good old-fashioned scrapbook. And you don't need a branded journals or fancy journal covers. My old reading journal I got was like £3 and it lasted me perfectly, and a lot of the journals in my system are ones I've had for a long time. My writing notebooks I got from a supermarket for £5 second hand. My media log and my mini reading notebook, both I've had in my collection for years, same for the scrapbook. The most expensive journal in this collection is the daily journal, and that is because it is a Snoopy collab. And for that one I did actually get it as a Christmas gift. But what I'm saying is that journaling doesn't have to be an expensive hobby. I cannot stress this enough. I feel like there are a lot of influencers and people online who will try and get you to buy branded journals and tell you you need this one or you need that to be a journaler, but you really don't. Your journal is yours. Journal how you want to and in the way that works for you. And don't be afraid to give it a go. Use a notebook you already have and just start. It is such a comforting hobby. It doesn't have to be perfect and you can change it up as much as you want to, but you do need to get going first. With that, we reach the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun filming this. Please do like, subscribe and leave a comment. If you'd like to comment but don't know what to put, leave a notebook emoji to let me know that you enjoyed until the end. Until next time.